welcome to the Homemade Songwriter. If you're just checking out our channel for the first time, my name is Austin, and here on the Homemade Songwriter, we specialize in all things music and songwriting. If you're like us and you love music, I'd recommend taking a spin through our channel and hitting that like and subscribe button for more weekly content all about songwriting and music and what makes it tick. On today's video, I'm going to do something a little bit different. To say that 2020 has been a year would be an understatement. We have had everything from raging wildfires and natural disasters to things that seem like they're out of a cheesy horror movie, like murder hornets, apparently.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah!
All in the middle of a global pandemic which has kept us indoors for the better part of the year. If you're watching this from the future, you're welcome for us getting through this. However, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, for as you can see, I am sporting a fresh beard, which can only mean one thing. No Shave November has concluded, we've reached level 12 of Jumanji, and we are now in the month of December. If you weren't already aware of this, Spotify for the last several years has been releasing year-in-review data to its users that quantifies what our top music was for the year. This includes top artists, top albums, new finds, and it culminates in a savable playlist of our top 100 most listened to songs of the year in the order of how much we listen to them. I myself am a Spotify user, and I've somehow resisted the temptation to take a deep dive at my Wraps 2020 playlist just yet because I wanted to do that with you live. I wanted to go through and talk about what some of my favorite songs were, as well as see what kind of psychological effect the year 2020 has had on my listening habits. So, without further ado, I present to you my 2020 Spotify year in review. I always like that Spotify does this whole presentation for you. It's not just like they just show it to you. 275. You discovered 275 new artists of the year. So if you weren't already convinced of the fact that we love music and songwriting on this channel, this ought to be evidence of that, I would think. If you're a musician or artist out there and you're watching this video and you want somebody to go listen to your tunes, drop your links in the comments of this video below and I will totally go give your track a spin and maybe even give you some feedback. Who says you have to go outside to explore? You listened to 253 genres this year, including 120 new ones. Oh my gosh. Top genres were, drumroll please, number 1 rock, 2 contemporary country, 3 soundtrack, 4 pop, 5 country rock. Okay, well, that's pretty good. You listen to a lot of rock and roll. Compared to other listeners, which decade did you play the most? I'm gonna guess that my most listened to decade this year has gotta be, it's gotta be the 70s. I got it. It's gotta be. You listened to 794 artists this year. Wow, that's a lot. So you sort of get the idea. You know, they give you all this data about what you've listened to the most throughout the year, which I always find super interesting just from an intellectual standpoint. We don't get super scientific on this channel necessarily, but it is kind of cool to see sort of the psychology behind music, even for ourselves. Okay, so let's go to the top songs of 2020. I'm gonna open this playlist, but I'm not gonna look at it. I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom because I don't want to see what my top song is, because it's sort of, it ranks your songs by like your most listened to songs in descending order, so the top song's first, and I want to kind of go through the list here. So I'm gonna scroll back towards like the middle of the pack here and sort of take a look and see. Oh man, yeah, so there's definitely some good stuff on here. There's a lot of like, you know, it's kind of all over the place. Let's just take it from about here. So definitely like grew up listening to country music, love country. Cody Johnson is an artist that if you've not discovered him yet and you like country music, you should definitely check him out. It's definitely country rock. I think it's kind of funny that there's a lot of him interspersed with Luke Combs because they sort of seem like different sides of the same coin to me in some ways. Cody Johnson's definitely like a real country boy, but I always say Luke Combs is so unassuming the way, like he's not one of these like, you know, cookie cutter, like, you know, poster boy, icon type of artists from a visual standpoint, which gives me a lot of hope for the music industry because he's just got a killer voice, love his songwriting. He released this new album this year, Every Little Bit Helps, is from his newest album, What You See Is What You Get, I believe is what it's called, and I just like tore this album up when it first came out, so there's no wonder there's a lot of this on the list because I probably know at least, and it's a long album too, but I've got at least, you know, half of them memorized because I just was jamming it. And then of course you can't do country unless you have a little King George in there as well, so of course got some George Strait. So, oh man, okay, so this is pretty cool. I took a real deep dive on the Beach Boys this year. And honestly, I know that, like, especially for people that are around my age, the Beach Boys don't necessarily, it's not like this top artist that comes to mind. when you think about like innovative songwriting or like a cool sound. But oh my gosh, like, you know, if you think about it, back in like the 60s and 70s even, the Beach Boys and the Beatles had this whole like rivalry deal where it was like this back and forth, like, are you a Beach Boys person or are you a Beatles person? And there was like this race to see like who could like make the weirdest and like coolest songs, you know, before the other one. And it's kind of funny, I sort of feel like the Beach Boys was almost like America's answer to the Beatles. And I gotta tell you, I fall on the Beach Boys side. I'm like, don't hate me for saying this, because there's obviously some amazing Beatles songs out there that I totally love. But I will tell you that, like, by and large, if you ask me like who has more songs that I like, it's the Beach Boys. Anyway, I grew up listening to this a little bit, and then I sort of rediscovered it this year, and I just fell back in love with it, and I've just listened to it so much this year. Not necessarily this song specifically, but obviously it wound up on my top 100 list for a reason. Life in the Fast Lane, of course, the top song for the 1970s for me. Gosh, I just love the Eagles so much. Life in the Fast Lane is like the one that I feel like I put it on when I'm driving because it just helps me stay calm when I'm in the fast lane and someone in front of me is going slow in the fast lane. Got a little Midland. Now, I feel like I talk about Chris Stapleton a lot on this channel because I love his songwriting, but this one right here, Up to No Good Livin', is a great track off of his From A Room Volume 1. Man, it is just a really clever song. I think the hook of the lyrics is, I'll probably die before I live all my up to no good living down. I just think that is such a good turn of phrase. I stinking love that. Oh man, so I found out last year, I didn't see it on this one, but I did find out that at least last year I was in the top 1% of fans of Chris Tomlin, which is pretty funny that it didn't show up this year because I definitely listened to that a lot. But I saw him play a show live in Nashville like 2 years ago, and that just like ignited this like love of this album that he put out. That if you're like love worship music like I do, I would go check it out. It's actually a live album. So this one here is from the studio version of this album, but he does a live album too. It'll probably show up later towards the top of the list. If I was a bet man, I would say. So you probably saw my genres. That another thing I should mention is, you know, I'm a big movie guy. Movie soundtracks, I listen to them all the time. I actually like to work out to movie soundtracks because it kind of gets me hyped. It makes me feel like I'm in the scene for a movie. So it's funny to see this on here because it's probably the first of a few that'll show up, and it's from a genre of movies that I don't necessarily get into all that much. But my wife's favorite movie of all time is Lonesome Dove, which is actually originally a TV movie that was filmed and released in 4 segments. So to watch it from start to finish is like 6 hours. It's a total commitment. But man, this track is killer. And I think it's what's so cool about movie soundtracks, and if you're like me, you probably feel like this too. Like this comment, or like this video if you agree with what I'm about to say. But whoever is responsible for crafting the soundtrack of a movie is responsible for telling a story without using any words. And I just think that's so cool. When it's done well, it just conjures the emotion or the feeling of the scene in such a way that like it is just inextricably tied to that scene, to where if it's a really good one, your mind will forever conjure the scene that the song originally appeared in whenever you hear it again. Another Beach Boys track on here, Good Vibrations, perfect example of the type of creative songwriting, vocals. And also, if you want to like really get obsessed with it, I would go watch the movie Love and Mercy, which is it's John Cusack portraying Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys and sort of detailing some of his like mental issues that he had. He was definitely a creative genius, but you sort of actually get to see some of the ways that he created in the studio when they were tracking this stuff. We're talking about climbing into a piano and plucking the strings with bobby pins to get some of the sounds for stuff like Good Vibrations. So definitely recommend checking that out. Okay, here's a great one, Tequila Does by Miranda Lambert. So Miranda Lambert put out this album, the Wild Card album, and I gotta say, just come to Jesus moment, I've never been a huge fan of Miranda Lambert. I didn't have anything against her, just never really, her sound didn't really appeal to me. But I got the chance to see her play towards the beginning of this year before we all went into pandemic lockdown. And man, I was just blown away. She's such an incredible performer. She had a 9-person band behind her with just like this insane lighting display and stuff. True performer for sure. And this is one of the songs that she played that I just fell in love with. It's cheeky, it's fun, it's sort of a spin on like your classic drinking song, because it's sort of like saying like, you know, well, I've got this guy that, I could go home with him or whatever, but he doesn't love me like tequila does, and nobody can. So if you're a tequila lover out there, give that one a spin for sure. Oh man, I'm so glad this wound up on my list. I have been looking for an opportunity to talk about this artist. Kylie Fry is going to be mega famous in like probably a year and a half, 2 years. She put out this song. I think it's the first one I discovered by her. I actually saw her at like sort of a small, like, back-to-back-to-back type of like ride-around show in Nashville. And so I got to talk to her after the show. I think she's originally like a Louisiana gal, but gosh, talk about like classic sound, amazing vocals, good, clever songwriting. And she's got like, she's just got it together, man. I'm just telling you. This girl is going to make it for sure. She's been putting out music all year. I've been tracking with it. She's got some really clever, fun, upbeat ones. One Night in Tulsa is one that I gravitate to because I think it's the first one that I discovered. But also, man, it just kind of hits you in the gut a little bit. It's like, who has not experienced being with that one person that they would do anything for? Oh yeah, baby, now we're getting to the meat here. So we have not exactly addressed this yet on this channel, though I'm sure it is forthcoming, but both Matt and I are huge comic book nerds. And honestly, when we first started hanging out all the way back in middle school in like 7th grade, we would actually get together and spend the night at each other's houses and just stay up until like 2 o'clock in the morning drawing together. Not playing video games, not watching movies and eating junk food, not sneaking out of the house and going and doing stuff. We literally sat at a table and drew comic book characters. And so I am a massive fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all things tied to it. And Alan Silvestri, of course, is a legendary composer. But that being said, the Avengers theme, of course, is a pretty iconic staple of that franchise. And so I listen to that when I'm working out, like I said earlier. Oh man, Sturgill Simpson. Okay, Sturgill Simpson, if you've not heard of this guy, which, I mean, he's definitely out there at this point, so I would imagine most people have heard of him at this point, but if you have not heard of Sturgill Simpson, he's got this wild rockabilly country, like outlaw country element about him, and what I love is that I have a hard time describing him because there's so little of that these days in the music industry. It's hard to like come across music that it's like, whoa, it's pop, or oh, it's country, or whatever. It's like, this is definitely in the country vein, at least this album. But like this year, he released an entire album that's like some of his hits redone as bluegrass songs as well as new songs. It's all bluegrass, featuring him like riding a John Deere lawnmower on the cover. This song, Life of Sin, is one that I found like a few years ago, but I sort of just fell back in love with it this year and listened to it a whole bunch. Definitely give that a spin if you want a very unique, individualistic artist who does not take any crap from anybody. Yes, like everyone else, I myself have been listening to like everyone else, I've been watching The Mandalorian like crazy. I'm a big Star Wars nerd as well. Colorado Evergreen. Man, I love that there's a bit of diversity in this playlist. But Colorado Evergreen, I don't even remember how I discovered them. That might have been off of a Spotify Discovery Tool playlist. But man, this song, I wish that I could just play it for you. But it's like this cool, like upbeat, just like rockin', straightforward kind of rock song. But it's a modern rock song. And there's not a whole lot of people that come to mind that are just, like, in terms of just like legendary rock, we just have not really had like the re-emergence of somebody who's like the rock band for our generation, I don't think. And I don't know if the genre itself is ever going to go back to where it was at some point, but it is cool to see artists like Greta Van Fleet and the Vagabonds. Here's the album I was talking about from Chris Tomlin a second ago, and Goodness, Love, and Mercy is a great one. This is a live track. Like I said, I love worship music. I was at this concert when this was recorded, so if you listen really close, you might be able to hear me in the crowd. But this album, man, it's just such a worshipful and cool experience. I highly recommend, especially for 2020 being such a crazy year. I definitely have needed that encouragement throughout this year, and so it's been cool to be listening to that and just be encouraged by that, and I hope that you will find that there as well. Okay, so this one is a recent discovery for me, and I don't want to talk about him too much because I really think I'm going to take a deep dive on his music pretty soon. Culture Wall has this like almost like Johnny Cash sound to him. I mean, he's got this like, at least from this, and this is my only impression of the guy, so I don't want to like try to put him into some kind of box when like the rest of his music sounds nothing like this song. But if this song is any indication, he's got this like kind of classic like Johnny Cash, like grumbling, like just like, I've been through some stuff kind of sound to him. And this song, it's just the lyrics for me are so like poetic and like haunting. It's this, kind of like Western influenced sound, but it's also like, you know, that talking about like businessmen with a needle and a spoon and like coyotes chewing on a cigarette and stuff like that. Just this kind of like dystopian imagery that I don't really fully understand what it's all about, but I gave it like some serious spinach earlier this year. That's spinach as in spin-age. Anyway, this one of my favorites, Avengers Endgame. So I think we're getting towards the top of my playlist now. So I'm just gonna go through my top 5 in order. Okay, so first we've got Low High by the Black Keys. It's funny, I was just talking about, you know, iconic rock bands. Totally an iconic rock band that I think just kind of flies under the flies under the radar just a little bit. I'm not saying, I mean, they've obviously got a huge following, but it's not necessarily somebody that I'm gonna think of right away and I think like, what's rock? But then one of my top 5 songs of the year is this song, which just came out recently. Low High is just like a total jam. I love the innovation of the sound, love the innovation of the lyrics. The lyricism is awesome for a rock band, so I definitely recommend checking out this song. It is a single that they put out. It's very cool. Number 4, Midnight Train in Memphis. I'm telling you, we practice what we preach on this channel. I don't tell you to listen to stuff unless I truly believe that it's worth listening to. Midnight Train in Memphis I mentioned specifically in a video not too long ago, and obviously it's number 4 most listened to song this year. It is a total jam. It gets you pumped up. I love to listen to it while I'm driving. I know that Chris Stapleton originally recorded this song with the Steel Drivers, which was his first band before he went solo, but he loved it so much that he decided to re-record it, and we're all better for it because it is an incredible track. So if you want to get pumped up, go listen to that track. Build My Life. Love this one. It's from the same concert I went to I was telling you about a second ago. It is a worship song that is sung by Pat Barrett, and it was joint. He was actually there with Chris Tomlin at this concert, so just a super worshipful, encouraging thing. Phil Wickham, another worship guy. You can see where my head's been for 2020 for sure. But Phil Wickham, love this song. Living Hope tells the whole story of the gospel, which to me is such an attractive thing. This is just, I don't even know exactly what to say about this song, but I will probably listen to this song like at least once every 2 days, especially while I'm like driving to work and stuff. I just get so encouraged from this song, and I love Phil Wickham's voice specifically. He has such a high range, and I'm like, in my car, I'm just like neck veins bulging while I'm trying to like match his pitch, because he just has such a cool like high tenor voice. So, man, I love this song so much. Living Hope. It's no wonder that it wound up number 2. And I think what's funny about number 1 is that it is a song by me. And so, not to sound too vain here or anything, but it's just like when you record and release songs, you do tend to listen to it. And what's super cool about this, and I knew this was going to happen, but Matt and I wrote this song together. In fact, actually, Matt and I wrote this song together via FaceTime, because at the time I still lived in Nashville, and he's out there in Austin, and so we got together. This was like before we even started talking about this channel. We have always written together, we've always created together, so we wrote this song, Hometown Hero, and the idea of the lyrics, what I came to him with was, I had this idea about writing a song about pursuing music as a career, and how if you do it correctly, you go from being a hero in your hometown to being a hero of your hometown, which I think is really cool. It's obviously, it's such a huge pursuit. It's hard to get there, and so that's part of what we talk about is like, how do we take steps? How do we work hard? How do we like continue on this path? But while you're pursuing it, it's funny because everybody in Nashville that I meet, it's this weird effect. Everyone out there is the best performer from their hometown. It's the best person they had to offer, you know? But when there's a million best people from their hometowns in one city, it's pretty hard to stand out from the crowd. And so anyway, not for a shameless plug here, but if you like upbeat kind of rock and country sound, which is what I was trying to emulate with this, there's some really great instrumentation on it. And it features some pretty legit artists that came in and did studio work for me, which was just such a huge blessing. So if you want to see Matt and I's songwriting credentials on display, go give that a spin. All right, now you've gotten a look at my top songs of 2020. My question for you today is, what were your top songs of 2020? I have a feeling that even if you don't have Spotify, you probably have an idea what it is, and I love hearing new music, so drop me some recommendations so I can go check them out in my spare time. Also, if you found value here, please like and subscribe to our channel for more content just like this every week. We love songwriting, and we hope you do too, and we want to help you do it better. So much so that we've actually put together a list of 30 free songwriting prompts to help jumpstart your creativity and get you writing again, which you will find a link for in the description of this video. If you write all 30 songs, you'll have the same number of new songs as the number of months it felt like 2020 had. Alright, that's all for this one, so keep writing, and we'll see you in the next one.